Picture this. You're standing in the lobby of one of Chicago's fanciest hotels. Designer suit, perfect hair, everything screaming, "I belong here." Then you see someone approaching you. Wrong clothes, wrong vibe, definitely wrong place. So you do what any powerful CEO would do. You call security and have them thrown out. Except here's the twist that'll make your stomach drop. That person you just humiliated, they're worth nearly $5 billion, and they were your company's last hope for survival. What happens next is a masterclass in karma that'll change everything you think you know about success, respect, and what really matters in this world. So let me take you back to that moment. Victoria Ashford, tech CEO, total powerhouse, is having the worst morning of her life. Before she even finishes her coffee, she gets an email that basically says, "Thanks, but no thanks," from an investor she's been chasing for 3 months. No explanation. Just goodbye. And here's the kicker. Her company's got 72 hours before the money runs out. 72 hours before she has to tell the world that everything she built is crumbling. Now, Victoria didn't just stumble into success. This woman grinded for 12 years, turning a scrappy startup into a tech empire. But something went sideways about 18 months back. A deal that should have been a home run turned into a complete disaster. Drained the bank account, and now she's bleeding cash with no tourniquet in sight, standing in that hotel bathroom, trying to steady her hands enough to apply lipstick. Victoria's thinking about her father. See, when she was just 9 years old, she watched her dad lose everything, and I mean everything, to a business partner he trusted. Her father spent the rest of his life convinced he made one fatal mistake, trusting someone who didn't belong in their world, someone without the right pedigree, the right connections, the right... Look, that lesson? It carved itself deep into Victoria's DNA. She built her entire career on one principle: only trust people who look like they belong at the table. And honestly, it worked. She became one of the most powerful women in American tech. But here's what she didn't see coming. That same principle was about to destroy everything. Her CFO, Marcus, had spent 3 weeks setting up this one meeting. One last shot with a guy named Darian Cole, this notoriously private investor who manages a $5 billion fund, the kind of guy who can turn dying companies into industry leaders with a single check. Marcus kept warning her, "This guy's different. He doesn't do the yacht meetings or the fancy dinners. He just shows up, watches, and decides." Victoria basically waved him off. Please. She'd been impressing investors since before Marcus finished business school. She knew how to work a room. But here's what Marcus didn't mention. What he assumed she already knew, what Darian Cole actually looked like. So the lobby's packed with conference people. Victoria's in her element, surrounded by potential partners, working the crowd like she owns it. And that's when Darian walks in. Navy polo shirt, khaki pants, no fancy watch, no briefcase, nothing screaming, "I'm about to write you a check that'll save your company." Marcus spots him immediately. He tries to walk over, but someone grabs him with a question. And in that split second, Darian's already moving toward Victoria with his hand extended, ready for a friendly introduction. Now pause right here. Because what happens next? It reveals everything about how we judge people in the blink of an eye. Victoria turns. Her eyes do this quick scan, face, clothes, shoes, takes maybe 2 seconds total. Navy polo, little faded at the collar. Department store khakis, no conference badge. And her brain, already in panic mode from the morning's disaster, makes a snap judgment. She pulls her hand back like she touched something contaminated. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" That voice, you know the one. The kind that says, "You're wasting my time and you don't belong here." Darian keeps his hand out. "We have a meeting scheduled. Marcus Webb arranged it, but Victoria's not hearing him. She's seeing someone who doesn't fit her mental picture of success. And worse, the German investors she's trying to impress are watching this whole thing unfold. I don't have any meeting with someone dressed like a maintenance worker. Her voice gets louder. This is a private event. I don't know how you got in here, but you need to leave. Darian lowers his hand slowly. Ms. Ashford, if you'd just let me explain. Security! Two guys in suits appear within seconds. Victoria points at Darian without even looking at him. This man doesn't have authorization. Escort him out. The whole lobby goes quiet. Dozens of people turn to watch. And Victoria? She's standing tall, chin up, absolutely certain she's doing the right thing. Protecting her space. Maintaining standards. Darian looks at her for this long moment. And here's what gets me. There's no anger in his face, no outrage. Just this deep, exhausted disappointment. Like he hoped for something better, but found exactly what he expected. I understand, he says quietly. Then he lets security lead him out. No protest, no scene. He just walks away. Marcus finally breaks free and rushes across the lobby just in time to see Darian disappear through the revolving doors. The color drains from his face. What did you just do? He grabs Victoria's elbow, pulls her to a corner. His voice is shaking. What did you just do? Victoria's annoyed. I protected this meeting from someone who had no business being here. You should be thanking. That man was Darian Cole. The name lands like a bomb. Victoria feels ice spreading through her chest. That's not possible. Darian Cole is... What? Marcus cuts her off. What did you think he would look like, Victoria? And right there, in that moment, Victoria's whole world starts cracking. She's replaying everything, the polo shirt, the kind smile, her own voice calling him a maintenance worker in front of 50 people. Marcus is staring at her with this look she's never seen before. 7 years they've worked together. 7 years of him smoothing over her rough edges, translating her aggressive style into something palatable. Now something in his eyes looks broken. He looked like me, Marcus says quietly. A black man in a room full of people who already decided what he was worth before he opened his mouth. Now let me tell you about Darian, because his story makes this whole thing even more devastating. This man grew up in one of Detroit's poorest neighborhoods. His mom worked double shifts at a hospital just to keep food on the table. No connections, no family money, no safety net. Everything he has, he built with his own hands. By 35, he'd turned a small investment club into something Wall Street noticed. By 40, he was managing billions. But here's the thing about money. It doesn't erase memories. 15 years ago, at a conference just like this one, a CEO refused to shake Darian's hand, looked at his simple clothes, looked at his skin, and decided instantly that he didn't belong. We don't do business with people like you, the guy said. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Took Darian 5 years to stop hearing those words every time he walked into a boardroom. So why does he still show up to first meetings dressed simply? No expensive suits, no luxury watches, none of the armor most wealthy people wear? Because he learned something crucial. The way people treat strangers reveals who they truly are. If someone only respects him after learning his net worth, their respect means nothing. Standing outside the Langham, breathing in that cold Chicago air, Darian pulls out his phone. Cancel everything related to Nexigen Technologies, he tells his assistant. Permanently. His assistant's confused. Sir, the meeting was supposed to happen this morning. Did something go wrong? Darian watches a taxi pass by. There are things money can't buy, and there are people money shouldn't save. He ends the call. Decision made. And it's not about personal insult, though yeah, that stings. It's bigger than that. A CEO who humiliates a stranger in public, who judges someone's worth by their clothing and skin color. Eventually, she'll treat her employees the same way, her customers the same way. She'll build a company culture that reflects her own blind spots. Darian made his fortune investing in people, not just products. And Victoria Ashford just showed him exactly who she was. He walks away without looking back, leaving behind a company that desperately needs his help and a woman who doesn't understand yet what she just destroyed. Meanwhile, Victoria's spending the next 3 hours trying to undo the disaster. Phone calls to Darian's office, all rejected. Emails, 5 different versions. No response. LinkedIn message. He views it, reads it, doesn't accept. Then at 7 that evening, the videos start appearing on social media. Someone filmed the whole thing. Everything in painful, high-definition clarity. Victoria's dismissive gesture, her loud announcement to security. Darian's quiet dignity as he's let out like a criminal. The caption? Tech CEO Victoria Ashford has black investor escorted out of conference for not belonging. The investor? Darian Cole. Worth $4.7 billion. The hashtag starts trending before dinner. At 11 that night, Victoria's on an emergency video call with her board of directors. The chairman's face fills her screen with pure disapproval. Victoria, you have 24 hours to fix this. If you can't secure Cole's investment and manage this disaster, we will have no choice but to ask for your resignation. She wants to argue, to explain, to defend herself. But looking at their faces, she understands that explanations won't save her. Only results will. Next morning, Victoria's on the first flight to New York. She arrives at Darian's office building before it. Even opens. Sits in the lobby for an hour, watching the security guard eye her with suspicion. When the receptionist arrives, Victoria approaches immediately. I need to see Darian Cole. The receptionist types something, then looks up with a practiced smile. I'm sorry, Ms. Ashford. Mr. Cole has specifically indicated he won't be meeting with representatives from Nexigen Technologies. I'll wait, Victoria says. Miss Ashford, I don't think you understand. He's not going to see you. I'll wait anyway. The irony isn't lost on her. Yesterday, she dismissed Darian in 90 seconds. Today, she's prepared to sit in his waiting room for as long as it takes. Hours crawl by. Employees come and go, some glancing at her with recognition, others whispering. Her phone fills with messages from board members, journalists, former colleagues. She ignores all of them. At 2 in the afternoon, after 6 hours of waiting, the receptionist finally speaks. Miss Ashford, Mr. Cole will see you now. You have 10 minutes. Victoria follows an assistant through hallways to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. Darian stands by those windows, back to the door. Same simple style as yesterday. Button-down shirt and dark slacks. He doesn't turn around when she enters. Close the door, he says. Victoria does. She stands in the center of the office, feeling for the first time in decades what it's like to have absolutely no power in a room. Mr. Cole, I came to apologize. What happened yesterday was a terrible mistake. I didn't know who you were. Stop, right there. Darian finally turns around. His face is calm, but his eyes hold something harder. Let me ask you something. What exactly are you apologizing for? Victoria feels the ground shift. For not recognizing you, for embarrassing you in front of all those people, for calling security when I should have... When you should have what? Darian walks slowly toward his desk. When you should have checked my credentials first? Googled my face before the meeting? Is that what you're sorry for? That you didn't do your homework? I'm sorry for the way I treated you. Darian shakes his head. You're sorry for the way you treated me because I turned out to be someone important. But here's what keeps me up at night, Miss Ashford. If I really had been just a maintenance worker who wandered into that lobby by accident, would you be here apologizing? Or would you still be congratulating yourself for protecting your event from someone who didn't belong? The question hits Victoria like a physical blow. She has no answer because she knows what the answer is. The problem isn't that you didn't know who I was, Darian continues. The problem is that you looked at me and decided I wasn't worthy of basic human respect. You saw a black man in casual clothes and your first instinct was to treat him like a threat, not a potential partner, not a fellow professional, not even a stranger deserving of common courtesy. A threat. Victoria feels tears forming, and she hates herself for it. Crying feels like manipulation, like making this about her feelings instead of what she did. 15 years ago, Darian says, a CEO did the same thing to me at a conference in Boston. Told me his company didn't do business with people like me. Took me 5 years to stop hearing those words every time I walked into a meeting. 5 years to believe I belonged in rooms where decisions were made. He walks closer. I thought I'd healed from that. But when you looked at me yesterday, when you called security like I was something to be disposed of, I realized that wound never really closed. It just stopped bleeding for a while. Victoria's voice comes out cracked. I don't know how to make this right. You can't make it right, Darian says. What's done is done, but you can decide what happens next. He sits behind his desk, shifting from personal to professional. I've looked at Nexagen's financials. Your company is salvageable. Barely. You have maybe 48 hours before your creditors start circling. The board will push you out either way, but the question is whether Nexagen survives at all. Will you invest? The words feel like begging. Which they are. That depends on you. I have conditions. Name them. First, you will issue a public apology. Not through your PR team. Not a carefully crafted press release. You will record a video yourself in your own words, admitting what you did and why it was wrong. You will use the words discrimination and prejudice because that's what it was. Victoria's stomach clenches. A public confession will follow her forever. Second, you will bring in an independent firm to conduct a complete audit of Nexagen's company culture. They will interview employees, review hiring practices, examine promotion patterns. Whatever they find, you will publish in full. The thought of exposing everything makes her head spin. Third, you will commit to restructuring your leadership team. Within 3 years, 40% of your executive positions must be held by members of underrepresented groups. This isn't about quotas. This is about building a company that actually reflects the world it operates in. Victoria swallows hard. And the fourth condition? Darian leans back. You give up your veto power. The board will have final say on all major decisions. You can stay as CEO if they'll have you, but you will no longer be able to override them. Every condition feels like a knife. Victoria spent 12 years building Nexagen in her own image, controlling every aspect. What Darian's asking means surrendering everything that makes her feel powerful. You're asking me to destroy myself, she says. I'm asking you to prove that your company is worth saving, that you're capable of being something more than what you showed me yesterday. If you can't do that, then maybe Nexagen doesn't deserve to exist. That night, Victoria sits alone in her hotel room, staring at the Manhattan skyline. She picks up her phone and calls Marcus. He answers on the 4th ring. What do you want, Victoria? The question she's been avoiding for years finally forces its way out. Marcus, do you think I'm a racist? Silence. Then Marcus speaks slowly. I think you've never had to look in the mirror. Not really. What does that mean? It means for 7 years I've watched you make decisions that just happen to benefit people who look like you, talk like you, come from the same world you come from. Last year I recommended Kesha Williams for the VP position, MBA from Wharton, 10 years of experience. You said she wasn't ready. The person you promoted instead had 3 years of experience and a bachelor's degree from a school nobody's ever heard of. But he reminded you of yourself when you were young, didn't he? Victoria tries to remember that decision. Nothing comes, except a vague sense that she trusted her instincts. I'm not saying you're evil, Marcus continues. I'm saying you've built a system that rewards people who fit a certain mold, and you've never questioned whether that mold is fair. You don't have to hate anyone to cause harm. You just have to never think about who gets left behind. The call ends. Victoria sits with his words until 3 in the morning, thinking about every hire, every promotion, every partnership she chose over 12 years. She thinks about the faces in her boardroom, her executive team, her circle of trusted advisors. She thinks about who's missing and why she never noticed. By dawn, she's made her decision. She records the video herself. No makeup, no script, no one telling her what to say. She speaks for 11 minutes about what she did in that lobby, about the assumptions she made, about the culture she built without ever examining it. She uses the words Darian demanded: discrimination, prejudice. She uploads it to every platform. Within hours, it goes viral. Half the internet praises her courage. The other half demands her immediate resignation. Both responses feel equally deserved. 6 weeks later, the cultural audit results come in. 67% of minority employees at Nexigen reported experiencing or witnessing discrimination. The number hits Victoria like a verdict. She built this. She allowed this. She never even looked. The board meets the next day. Their decision is unanimous. Victoria will step down as CEO, transitioning to an advisory role with no voting power. Darian Cole will invest $50 million, but only if Marcus Webb becomes the new CEO. Victoria watches the news coverage from her penthouse apartment, the empire she built passing into someone else's hands. She's lost everything she thought defined her: her title, her control, her reputation. But somewhere beneath the grief, something else is stirring. A question she never thought to ask. If everything she believed about herself was wrong, then who is she really? And who could she become? The first month after losing her position feels like drowning in slow motion. Victoria stops leaving her penthouse. The phone calls from old friends dry up almost immediately, replaced by silence that makes her realize how many relationships were built on her usefulness rather than genuine connection. 3 former employees file lawsuits against her personally. Reading through the legal documents, Victoria encounters moments from her own history she completely erased from memory. A comment about someone's hair, a joke about someone's accent, small cruelties that meant nothing to her but stayed with the people who received them for years. The media coverage is relentless. Every article about Nexigen's transformation includes a paragraph about her downfall. She becomes a cautionary tale. Strangers dissect her apology video frame by frame, debating whether her tears were genuine. In the 3rd month, Victoria does something she's avoided for years. She drives to her father's house in the suburbs of Boston. Richard Ashford is 81 now, mind still sharp but body failing. She settles into the chair across from him, the same chair where she sat as a child, listening to his stories about business and success and knowing who belonged in your world. "I need to ask you something," she says, "about the partner who ruined you, the one who took everything." Her father looks at her with tired eyes. "Why does that matter now?" "Because I've been telling myself a story about him my whole life." "A story you told me, and I need to know if it was true." Richard turns to look out the window. When he speaks again, his voice has lost its usual certainty. His name was Thomas Bradley. He was the most decent man I ever worked with. Victoria feels something shift in her chest. "Then why did you tell me he betrayed you?" "Because it was easier than telling you the truth." Her father's hands tremble slightly. "I made bad investments, took risks I shouldn't have taken. When the company started failing, I needed someone to blame. Thomas came from nothing, worked his way up from the mailroom. He was an easy target. I convinced myself that someone like him couldn't be trusted, but the truth is he tried to warn me. I just didn't listen." Victoria sits with this revelation, feeling the foundation of her entire worldview crack and crumble. For 40 years, she believed her father's downfall came from trusting the wrong kind of person. She built her whole career on that principle, and all of it was based on a lie her father told himself because he couldn't face his own failures. "I blamed him publicly," Richard continues. "Destroyed his reputation. He never recovered. Last I Heard? He died about 10 years ago. Never got a chance to rebuild what I took from him. Victoria leaves that evening with something broken inside her. But for the first time, the breaking feels necessary, like setting a bone that healed wrong. She begins attending therapy twice a week. Sessions focused on implicit bias and the ways people construct narratives to protect themselves from uncomfortable truths. She volunteers at an organization helping young entrepreneurs from underserved communities. Shows up without press coverage, without announcing her presence, just doing the work. She writes letters by hand to every employee who filed a complaint against her. Not legal letters, not attempts to settle. Just acknowledgments of what she did and apologies that expect nothing in return. Most never respond. A few write back with anger, which she accepts. 2 write back with something like forgiveness, which she's not sure she deserves. Meanwhile, Nexigen transforms under Marcus's leadership. Within 6 months, the company implements every reform the audit recommended. The executive team expands to include voices never heard in those rooms before. Employee satisfaction scores climb. Revenue, which nearly collapsed under Victoria's final months, begins to stabilize and then grow. Marcus and Darian meet for dinner in Manhattan to discuss the company's progress. Quiet table, far from the usual power dining spots. "She's different," Marcus says. "Victoria, I've been keeping track. She's actually doing the work." Darian nods slowly. "Do you think she deserves another chance?" Marcus considers carefully. "I think everyone deserves a chance to become better than their worst moment. Whether she earns that chance is up to her. But I've seen people change before. Real change, not just performance." "I've been hard on her," Darian admits. "Maybe harder than I needed to be." Marcus looks at him with understanding. "You weren't just judging her. You were judging the man who did the same thing to you 15 years ago. She just happened to be standing in his place." Darian is quiet for a long moment. "Does that make what I did wrong?" "It makes you human," Marcus says. "The question isn't whether your anger was justified. The question is what you do with it now." Darian uses the Nexigen case as a teaching tool at Harvard Business School, an example of how corporate culture reflects leadership values. But he also launches something new, a foundation called Second Chance Leadership that provides resources for companies wanting to reform after public failures. The goal isn't punishment, it's transformation. 1 year after the incident at the Langham, the annual tech conference returns to the same Chicago hotel. Victoria receives an invitation to speak on a panel about accountable leadership. Her first instinct is to decline. Standing in the same lobby where she humiliated Darian feels like walking back into a crime scene, but she accepts anyway. Running from the past never helped anyone. Her panel goes well. She speaks honestly about her failures, about the blind spots she spent a lifetime refusing to see, about the long and incomplete process of becoming someone she can respect. The audience. Response is mixed, some appreciative of her candor, others still skeptical. Victoria's learned to accept both as valid. After the session, she makes her way through the crowded lobby, shaking hands with people who approach her, answering questions from young professionals who want to know how she survived such a public collapse. And then she sees him. Darian Cole stands near the windows overlooking the Chicago River. Simple gray sweater and dark jeans. Still no expensive watch. Still no visible markers of his wealth. He's talking to a young woman who looks like a startup founder, giving her his full attention the way he gives everyone his full attention. Victoria waits until the conversation ends. Then she walks toward him, heart beating faster than it has in any boardroom negotiation. Darian sees her coming and watches her approach without moving. When she reaches him, Victoria does something she's never done before in her entire professional life. She extends her hand first. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming." Darian looks at her hand, then at her face. A year of change is written there, in the lines around her eyes, in the absence of the armor she used to wear. He takes her hand and shakes it. "Thank you for inviting me," he says. Victoria holds the handshake a moment longer than necessary. "I'll never be able to apologize enough for what happened in this lobby." Darian releases her hand gently. Apologies aren't really about words. They're about what you do after. And from what I've seen, you've done enough. Victoria feels tears threatening but holds them back. "I lost everything I thought I needed to be worthy of respect. My title, my power, my reputation. And somehow, for the first time in my life, I feel like I might actually deserve my own respect." Darian nods slowly, a small smile crossing his face. "That's the only kind of respect that really matters." They stand together for a moment. Two people who were on opposite sides of the same wound, looking out at the lobby where everything fell, apart. Same marble floors, same crystal chandeliers, same crowd of executives measuring each other's worth. But something has changed. Not the room, not the people in it. Just the two of them, standing by the window, finally seeing each other. Clearly, Victoria speaks quietly, almost to herself. Respect should never be earned by status. It should be given by default. Darian glances at her with surprise. "I've said that exact thing in a dozen speeches, but it sounds different coming from you." "It feels different saying it," Victoria admits. "Because now I understand what it costs when you forget it." They part ways without drama, without grand gestures, without promises of friendship or reconciliation. Some wounds heal, some leave scars. But all of them teach you something if you're willing to learn. Victoria walks out of the Langham into the bright Chicago afternoon, leaving behind the woman she used to be. The handshake she offered wasn't a plea for redemption. It was simply an acknowledgement that every person who crosses your path deserves to be seen as fully human. That lesson cost her everything, and it was worth every bit of what she paid. So here's what I want to know, and I really want to hear from you on this. How many times have you judged someone before giving them a chance to speak? Before letting them prove who they really are? Have you ever been in a situation where someone completely underestimated you based on how you looked or where you came from? Or maybe, and this is the harder question, maybe you realized later that you misjudged someone else, that you made assumptions that turned out to be totally wrong. Drop your stories in the comments below, because honestly, these conversations are where real change starts, where we stop pretending we're perfect and start getting honest about the blind spots we all carry around. And listen, if this story made you think, even just for a moment, about how you see people, how you judge worth, how you decide who belongs, then consider subscribing. We share stories like this every single week. Stories about the moments that change us and the choices that define who we become. Not just feel-good fluff, real stories, hard stories, stories that ask uncomfortable questions. And don't always give easy answers. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community. And I'll see you in the next one.